in these times, especially in school, it gets really hard as students, as all of us know. And it's tough to be away from home, and having something like that, some familiarity to home and to our cultures is very important to us, and I'd like to thank you guys for that. And then a special thanks to the Missoula Indigenous Community Organizations and the crews at the All Nations Health Center for tabling on the Oval today, as well as our student organizations, KIO, ABLE, and the Native American Natural Resource Program. Next, I would like to introduce Marcos Lopez and Zach Rides at the Door. Marcos is from the Nez Perce and Crow Nations, and Zach Rides at the Door is from the Blackfeet Nations. They will be presenting us with an honor song to honor this day. Thank you, Marcos and Zach. That was great. Next, I would like to introduce Brad Hall for our next talk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's events. I gotta say, this is not an event one person put on. It takes a community. So I want to thank each and every one of you that did that today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Brad Hall. I am from Browning, Montana. I'm Blackfeet, and I am the Tribal Outreach Specialist here for the Office of the President. And it is my pleasure to serve the students, faculty, staff, president of the university in my position here, which on October 14th will be 1 year. So thank you everyone for being so welcoming. I guess you can clap. I'm just going to give a short blessing. Right now there are a lot of people in Indian country and Montana and around the country who are suffering because of the virus that we all have dealt with and changed our lives. I want to give blessings to people who are suffering, people who are caring for the sick, people who are making sacrifices for their families so that they can stay together, and also for the families that are dealing with tremendous losses. It is really important to note that when a loss occurs in our community, it's something that we all feel, and it's something that the university doesn't always look at. Our people here don't always understand just how communal Indian people are, and at this point how hard it is to be ourselves among one another, and being that we have such close-knit relationships, ties, and it is really difficult right now. So I'm just going to ask for a moment of silence for the families in the tribal nations dealing with COVID-19. It's really important that the Grizz family wrap your arms, although socially distant, around one another, and take into account the challenges that we're all facing. So thank you very much. It's my hope that we have many blessings that come beyond this, that we're diligent, that we're helpful, respectful of each other, that we bring forth this day, however cloudy. I think somebody was praying that we didn't have rain, so thank you.
Next, we want to invite President Bodnar up here to speak.
All right, well, thank you, Zachary. And can everybody hear me okay? All right, I will keep my mask on while I'm speaking, but know that I am smiling very, very broadly, and I just want to start by thanking Dr. Hall, thanking so many here, Michelle Guzman, who is our Director of American Indian Student Services, and of course Zachary for so ably leading today's ceremony. You can tell Zachary is much tougher than I am too, because you can see his short sleeves up here, and I'm shivering in my coat. So he's very, very tough and very eloquent speaker and very capable MC. But as Dr. Hall mentioned, COVID-19 has presented so many challenges for our global society and disrupted so much about what brings us together, what sustains us through challenging times is connection and is community. And it is very striking to be here today with all of you because we haven't had events. We haven't had the chance to gather. And I am so grateful to Dr. Hall and so many others who did so much work, not just for this event, but a whole number of events, some of which Zachary mentioned as he was speaking today in celebration of American Indian Heritage Day. And I cannot think of a more fitting event upon which we gather. This is, as Brad mentioned, Native American culture and heritage is such an integral part of what makes this university special. We always, as we begin all of our ceremonies, and especially today, acknowledge that we stand right now, in this moment, in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people, a number of whom are our students, our colleagues, our friends. And today and every day, we honor their contribution in the path that they've always shown us in caring for this place today and for future generations. Education and innovation have been taking place right here on this land long before the University of Montana existed. And we honor these contributions in part by delivering on our promise to provide an education that recognizes the rich history and culture of our American Indian friends and colleagues. They and their ancestors have made distinct and valuable contributions in many academic fields and across our community. And their influence has obviously played an incredibly important role in shaping the history of this institution and will continue to play an integral role in shaping the future of this fine institution. And I'd like to officially read a proclamation that makes explicit the importance of what we're doing here today. Whereas we acknowledge the indigenous peoples upon whose traditional homelands the University of Montana stands, the Salish and Kalispel people, as well as the descendants of those original stewards of this land, continuing to live in vital relationship to this place. And whereas numerous American Indian tribes constitute the largest minority group resident in the state of Montana. And whereas American Indians on the campus of the University of Montana contribute significantly as scholar learners to the intellectual environment and thereby enhance the education of all students at the University of Montana. And whereas Governor Steve Bullock has proclaimed this day as American Indian Heritage Day, now therefore I, Seth Bodner, President of the University of Montana, do hereby proclaim this day, the fourth Friday of September, as American Indian Heritage Day at the University of Montana, for celebration in ways appropriate to the culture and traditions of the many tribes represented at the university. Now, that proclamation, formal as it sounds, and those are always, it's quite different to read an official proclamation, but it's also important. But I also want to emphasize that it's a living document. And I want to thank my colleagues and friends, Dr. Brad Hall and Dr. Kate Shanley, for updating this proclamation to better reflect our commitment to our American Indian students and our obligation to do good for and through them as emerging scholars, professionals, and leaders. This proclamation reminds us that this place is shaped by and will continue to be shaped by Indigenous knowledge and ways of being in the world. This is our good fortune, and this is our blessing at the University of Montana. And we see this impact in so many ways across our beautiful campus. We see this impact in last year's Eloise Cobell Day celebration, and in the continued breathing of life into the memory of her tremendously impactful work. And I'm pleased that we will host our second annual Eloise Cobell Day celebration on November 5th this year, her birthday. We also see this impact in, for example, the launching of, by Dr. Heather Cahoon, of the American Indian Governance and Policy Institute here on campus, which through research and service is developing close relationships with Montana tribal councils to assist in research and analysis of tribal policies related to needs and growing economies and addressing the social determinants of health in their communities. We see the impact in this work that has taken place to expand our UN policy that allows for the creation of a newly designated, accessible, student-facing place for American Indian students to smudge in the OC's Branch Center. This is a space that was dedicated today, and it will be an evolving space that fosters inclusivity into the UN community. We see the impact that we're talking about in Dr. Annie Belcourt's work, for example. Her research and contributions sit on the front lines of vital work to better understand and combat health disparities in our American Indian communities. Mm-hmm. We see it in the work of Dr. Aaron Thomas, who's here today, as a scientist who works tirelessly to engage with American Indian youth in this state, planting seeds in our next generation, who aspire to be doctors, researchers, and future leaders in STEM fields. We see this tremendous impact in the work of the All Nations Health Center, whose partnership and programs serve many members of the Grizz family by ensuring holistic wellness of our community. And we see the impact of our Native American friends and colleagues in ongoing efforts to ensure that UM and Missoula are places where Indigenous knowledge thrives. American Indian Heritage Day honors these and so many more contributions. And I want to thank you for being here with us today and turning our attention, taking a moment to really focus our attention on the tremendous impact of Indigenous knowledge and ways of being in our community. I of course want to thank Zachary Wagner for so ably serving as a wonderful master of ceremonies. So his work's not done, but I want to give you a gift, Zachary, of thanks for the work that you've done today. And now it's my distinct honor to introduce Arlene Adams, our speaker today. So, Arlene Ray Adams resides in her hometown of Arlee, Montana, where she and her 8 siblings were born and raised by her Salish father and her mother, who was Salish, Kootenai, and Cree. Growing up, she was cleansed by the waters of the stream next to the sweat house, taught the way of the seasons by her grandmother, and wrote out the strength and lessons of the land taught to her by her grandfathers. She graduated from Arlee High School, also graduated from Salish Kootenai College, and eventually she came to the University of Montana, where she became the first of 3 to graduate with a Native American Studies degree under the direction of Bonnie Simpson, Heavy Runner Craig, her hero. She's not alone in having her as a hero. So many of us in our community do. Arlene is proud to have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and we are so grateful to have her with us here today. I'd like to please join me in welcoming Arlene Adams.
I don't know if I can talk with my mask on. I'm going to give it a try. Lemlunch, Mr. Bodner. Lemlunch, Kate. Cousin Michelle. And all you beautiful people out there that blaze a trail here on the campus. That continue to observe this day. I said this morning that as Native people, we celebrate every day in one form or another. I give thanks to this land. I give thanks to Creator for allowing us all to be here today. And it's been a long time since I had to actually think about a topic and write down some notes on what it is I want to talk about today and what y'all might need to hear or want to hear. My dad, the late Louis Adams, he would have his little tiny 3x3 cards and have his little notes on there, and he would say that he wrote a few things down to remember because he was getting up in age. Today, I still have to write down my thoughts, academically, footnotes and all, in order to keep my thoughts straight. It is with great pride and honor that I have been asked to speak to you today on a topic of my choice called Res and Educated. Came to me this past week as I'm working in the woods and gathering things and get a message from Cheyenne country about wanting some roots. And this girl gave me this cup a year or so ago, and it says Res and Educated. And it really made sense to me in the moment of being asked about a topic, and at that moment knowing where I needed to be. The University of Montana acknowledges that we are we are in and on the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Today we honor the path that they have always shown us in caring for the place for generations to come. This statement alone, Lemlunch Brad, I wished existed when I was walking the grounds here. as I had to in so many ways make it known through my actions, depth, and content that this land we stand on today is the dust of my ancestors. In Tla'ai, place of the bull trout, where my people camped, hunt, fish, and gathered roots and berries, a place they called homeland. Coming from the res, I could only imagine and look at old pictures to see, and grew up with the law of the land give me the identity of my ancestors. Coming from the res, the NAS professors did a great job extracting content from my being, because I wanted to know too, as much as I could write and dig up in the university library archives, my family elders, and whoever I could find, to write about who I am and where I came from. I love learning, but coming from the res, a short 20 minutes down the road, was a major shock, culture shock for me. Almost like I came here by myself to the city, and I knew very little about Missoula and had very little support, I thought at the time. After a year of trying to figure out what direction, as I transferred in as an English major in secondary ed, then couldn't pass the national teaching exam by one stinking point, I set into motion to challenge the system. As I sat under this big pine tree right here by the Oval, contemplating my situation, I felt something on the ground and I picked it up, and it was an Indian head nickel. I looked up and I seen this lady walking down the grass off the middle of the oval there. It was Bonnie. She took my hand and she gave me a hug and she said, "I want to help you." I cried, as I always do when any major support happens. She said, "I'm walking in the new NAS program, degree program, through the halls of Congress, so to speak. And with all your credits and background, I want to transfer you in." To me, this was like a godsend, as it changed the course of history for me and my education here at the university. I was introduced to some most amazing educators of my time here, who really challenged me to write and think outside the res. They brought to light in me the educated being that even I sometimes didn't know existed. My yaya, my great-grandmother, a little hunchback, Caroline Louise Vanderburg, the daughter of Chief Victor of the treaty signing days, was born on the banks of Intla'ai near the Higgins Street Bridge. So whenever my educated mind got too full and confused, I would go release myself by the water, in the water, and could imagine her holding me tight like she did and giving me that strength to sing the songs of the old people in harmony with the water, and finding the courage to continue on and walk back to this campus. Her daughter, my dad's mom, was a product of what is called today MMIW. In 1959, she was murdered in Arlee, and it was never solved. I never knew her, but was able to read all about her in these archives back here as one of the greatest female horse jockeys of her time. As I researched and dug up the archives and got close at heart via my dad, my yaya, my uncles, and my siblings, my older siblings, being res and educated, I'm close to her today. I graduated from here in 1979, the 100th commencement. Our Honorable Earl Oldperson emceed our powwow that spring and brought to light the past 100 years of struggle, but us educated Indians never gave up. He said, "At my commencement was the first and only time they ever allowed a drum group to honor our first ever NAS graduating class of 3 in the main ceremony of the field house. Being res and educated, again I cried. It took 100 years for our educational institution to recognize the importance and contributions of the people of this land, for which they stand, and it took a warrior like Bonnie to carry it out, for us to flourish, for us to be proud of being res and educated. So let's take on the next 100 years with pride and dignity, and continue to acknowledge the Native contributions in all aspects of our land, all across this great land. It humbles me today to stand before you and to ask Creator to look at each and every one of our paths. Each and every one of us have a contribution to our life and to this land and to this university. Take it to heart and make something good out of it. I would like us all to face that way, the west way. This morning we faced east with our morning song. We're going to grand entry into our day. As I end, I say, Lem lem chusukil kokani. Lem lem chkudan sudan. Atsmit kapapa wasial. Lem lem. Salamat. Masukit ko kini. Thank you.
Special thanks to Arlene